Hey, what's up, everybody? C-Man here at the end of a long day of editing. I've been editing together that special little thing that I've been working on that you now see is an interview with the Nelms brothers. And I just wanted to pop on to say this is loaded with spoilers. I'm editing, and we never said that it was loaded with spoilers until like 30, 35 minutes in. So I want to put at the front. This interview will be loaded with spoilers. Stuff for the end, big moments in the movie. Just loaded with spoilers for Fatman. So if you haven't seen Fatman, you don't want it spoiled, go check Fatman out. Check out my review for Fatman, which is right up there. And then come check out the interview I did with Ian and Eshom Nelms. But if you have seen Fatman and you're ready for all the discussion, then this is the place for you, man. We had so much fun. Thank you so much, Ian and Esh. This was a really, really great time, and hopefully we got some good content for you guys. So take it away, past Seaman, Ian, and Esh with a little interview action with the Nelms brothers. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to an unbelievably special edition of the Seaman Cinema Sit-Down. If you've been following me on Twitter, I've dropped a couple teasers that I've kind of had something cool in the works, and that's because, of all things, this starts with my mother. My mother, about a month or so ago, goes, "Do you know Mel Gibson was making a gun-toting Santa Claus movie?" And I was like, no, I did not know that was a thing, but now I'm very, very interested. And a couple weeks ago, I'm just looking for something new to watch, and it pops up on VOD. I'm like, oh, that's that movie my mom was talking about. Threw it on thinking that I was going to get something outrageous. And what I ended up getting was this really honest, earnest, grounded look at Santa Claus in present time, like right now in 2020. If he actually existed, not up in like a magical land in the North Pole, but actually existed in the real world, what would that be like? And Mel Gibson knocks it out of the ballpark. I'm sitting there just loving this thing, eating it up. Walton Goggins plays an assassin that's going to try to kill him. And I'm like, this is so interesting. And it's never getting too out of control. And I get to the end of the movie. I'm like, that was really awesome. I got to review this. And I review it. And one of the two directing brothers leaves a comment on the page. I'm like, no, that can't be. And I went, checked the YouTube page, seemed pretty legit. And I reached out and I said, would you guys be interested in coming on to talk about the movie and do a little bit of an interview? And to my shock and pleasant surprise, these two brothers that are tremendous filmmakers, Fatman being as great as it was, made me dive into the catalog, and I worked backwards. And some of their other films, like Small Town Crime and Waffle Street and Lost on Purpose. I mean, just really good things, and watching them build to these really, really like interesting movies has been really, really neat for me for the last week. And now I have the unbelievable pleasure of welcoming them onto my YouTube channel and to the Cinema Sit-Down. Please welcome Ian and Eshom Nelms.
Corey, good to be here, man.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having us, brother. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you for coming on. First and foremost, how are you guys? Obviously, with the pandemic and everything, you guys, your family, everybody doing okay?
So far, so good, man.
Good.
Yeah.
I've been sequestered to the basement, as you can see, without any way of getting out. No, no, it's good. It's good. I say the one thing that's been great about it is it's in the way that when the holidays come around, you're very family centric, and everything kind of revolves around hanging out with your family. Well, it's just kind of been that way for the last year, really.
Yeah.
We've been neck deep in family the whole time. The kids can't go to school. I can't get out of the house. So you're just on top of each other.
Yeah, I only recently moved out into this nice new space, and I was spending a good chunk of time with my family. And that was a full house: mom, dad, two sisters, brother. And for the first chunk before me and my brother both moved out within a month of each other, we were just kind of all hanging out. It really kind of puts a lot of things in perspective again, where it's like, oh yeah, these are the things that matter when crazy shit that actually takes place in movies starts happening in real life.
Yeah.
It's the real times for sure.
Yeah. So obviously I wanted to start right at the top. How did we get here, Ian? What possessed you to reach out and drop a comment? And did you expect me to reach back?
Look, man, we make these movies to connect with people, and it's always awesome to see someone have a great experience with one of our movies. And throughout all the movies we've ever made, we're totally game to open up conversation and chat and have some fun, either talking movies, talking life, or talking shop, or talk about the movie that, we had just made if someone had watched it. Like, we really have a lot of fun doing that. I think we gain a lot from it as well.
Definitely.
Having those conversations. It's not just patting ourselves on the back. It's fun to see what, there's a lot of things we put in the movie, and it's a lot of fun to see what people get out of the movie, because sometimes it's not what we intended, and sometimes it is what we intended, and sometimes somebody takes something we intended and runs 100 yards with it, and we're just like, holy shit, like that's an amazing layer.
Yeah, right.
But it's always really fun to talk movies with people. That's why we make the damn things. So it's
that's always refreshing to hear coming from filmmakers directly, because a lot of times when you see a lot of the big name people, we imagine that they live up in this, almost like Santa, like in a fairy tale land that doesn't really exist to real people, and like you forget, like they are real people, and the reason you get into the business is to tell stories, and when you're a storyteller, you want to talk about those things. So Eshom, from your standpoint, what is it like connecting and reaching out to fans when you're making some of these smaller movies?
Well, man, I think Ian Apps very nailed it, like right on the head. That's what we do it for. Look, I think every time we go out, we're extremely grateful for the opportunity to make a movie every time. It's a lot of hard work. It's like a year plus of your life.
Yeah.
So I think it warms your heart when people connect with something that you've made, and you get to share that experience. So it's an echo of what Ian said. Ian and I have this conversation many, many times.
Yeah, I'm sure. Cool. So I wanted to start with Fatman first and foremost. What has that response been like? I was kind of going through some of the tweets and things that you guys have responded to people with, and it seems like the people that have watched the movie have really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we've had a pretty incredible audience reaction to the movie. I mean, overall, in general, it's been pretty fantastic. I mean, most people like to dive in and dig into the layers of the film. And I mean, there's a layer of the film that's just entertainment, and you can take it for that, or you can start really kind of, digging some holes in there and really going down like, some of those themes and but I mean, I like movies that are like that a lot. I know Esh does as well. Like, we love movies that have,
multiple layers to peel back and look at, and
that onion can go, that onion just keeps going down and down. So I mean, I'm sure that's where our love of cinema sort of meets what we do, what we like to try to do or do with our cinema. I mean, a lot of it takes place in that writing process, and then of course you get your collaborators and they have ideas, and sometimes that adds some wonderful layers as well.
Yeah, and speaking of the writing process, as someone who writes in his own free time and hopefully one day can make a movie myself, I know what it's like to try to get into that world of being a story. And I think one of the fascinations with writing is you get to kind of be God to a degree, right? Like, you are in control of that entire world. Ash, what is it like to share that with someone, and then also to have that person that you're constantly sharing that be your brother? The idea of a writing tandem I've always been interested in. Is it like you talk about the movie and then you each take different elements? Do you kind of write it together? How does that process work for you guys?
So for us, it's all of the above. But I will say one of the, look, I'm very blessed to have Ian as a collaborator, and I'd like to think he feels the same way. But
I'm a little tired of dragging the dead weight, Ash. No, it's one of these days. It's amazing writing together. I mean, luckily we have similar tastes, so it's like I think the best thing for me, which is amazing, is that the funnest part for us, I think, is the brainstorming, where we're just throwing stuff back and forth. And then it's so great because there's a lot of times when you come up with an idea and you're like, is this any good or is this shit? And then he's not, he's not afraid to just immediately tell me, oh, that's terrible. Or, yeah, you might want to rethink that. Or here's what I think is good about it. And since our tastes are pretty similar and that we trust each other implicitly, like, there's a shorthand and we get to it quickly, and then we start developing it into something that could be something.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, we're pretty blessed. And there's no bullshit between us. We'll deal it straight. And it's fun. At the end of the day, it's fun to look back at a script and not remember who wrote what line. We pass back and forth and people are like, oh, who wrote that? Who wrote this? And honestly, like, look, there are some lines we're like, oh, I guess we wrote that. I can't remember. But 99.9% of those lines, Ian and I can't remember who wrote them. because they've been synthesized through our mutual, our tandem brain for so long.
That's awesome. And speaking of length, if the internet isn't lying to me, you guys wrote Fatman back in 2006?
Yeah, 14 years ago. So it's been a marathon for sure.
So let's start there. One, when I was watching the movie and I was watching Mel perform, the role felt like it was almost catered or written towards him. And then I saw that year 2006 and immediately popped in my head because that was kind of the year when things went kind of crazy for Mel. And I myself have been a huge Gibson fan my whole life. My mom adores him, and I was watching Lethal Weapon and the Mad Max movies when I was probably not supposed to be watching those movies. And he's kind of had this roller coaster career. So was he someone that was in mind? Did that play into it, or did it just kind of come that way when you finally got a chance to make the movie to land Mel?
So in full disclosure, like in 2006, 14 years ago, Mel was not in our mind's eye, but we're like you. We like grew up eating our Captain Crunch, watching Mad Max and Road Warrior and Lethal Weapon. Like those are our canon of films, along with, some Dirty Harrys and such like that.
Oh yeah.
And throw in a little Predator, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But, but it was not easy, as you can imagine. Pitching an outside the box Western contemporary thriller is not an easy sell. And so it took us quite a while to work up to getting the opportunity to make Fatman. We had to do a lot, we had to do a lot of stuff of films in the interim. Yep. And when we finally did land on the idea of Mel was in 2016 when we saw him at the screening for Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh,
and that's
awesome.
Yeah. So, but back in the day, we actually wrote it with Jack Nicholson in mind.
That would have been something to see.
I mean, it's just a different version, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Look, actually, Jack retires and Mel ages into the role perfectly. And then when we see him in 2016, he's got this beautiful beard.
Yeah.
And strangely, like, and Ian and I were talking about this, like every year that went along, the film felt bizarrely more relevant.
Yeah.
Like we're like, oh wow, like all this has happened since we wrote this, and this feels like even more relevant now. And so when we went to him, and now obviously, so we land on the idea in 2016, and now it takes another couple years before we're even actually trying to make it. And so then we submit to him formally, and we're crossing our fingers that he likes it, right? We're writing him a letter. We're telling him our vision for the movie, how amazing he looks in a beard, and just hoping, crossing everything that he's gonna respond to it. And a couple weeks went by, and we hadn't heard anything. And we're like, oh.
We were also talking to a lot of producers at the time, and it was because we were able to make Small Town Crime that we got to make Fatman. Because for the 14 years, why it wasn't getting made wasn't because people weren't digging the script. It was mainly because we would go into these meetings, and we were getting a ton of meetings off of that script. It was just, they were like, well, what is this? And we were like, well, it's a Western dark comedy action thriller. And they were like, okay, what the fuck? Like it's director dependent. So whoever directs it, it's going to be kind of this way or kind of that way. And we were like, okay, they're like, if you want to direct this, you're going to have to do some films that show us what the tone of this fucking thing is. They're like, okay. They're like, we love the script, but it depending on the director you get, it can lean one way or the other a little bit.
And I felt like half those meetings just wanted to see the maniacs that would come through the door, though.
Yeah,
exactly. It was very masochistic. But we did Small Town Crime, and it was finally, that movie as well has, some Western undertones, and it has dark comedy, but it's also a character piece, and it has drama, and it has some heart, and it's a comeback story, and it's like, it's got all these kind of mixing genres, and we were able to sort of point back to that movie and say, that's what it's going to feel like. Like, read the script, it's going to feel kind of like this. And they were like, oh shit, okay, I get it now. I understand what this is. And that's literally what kicked the ball forward and got people interested in actually putting down some change for it. So then when we went into these meetings, they were taking us a lot more seriously. They were like, okay, great. Who are we casting? We went out to Mel, and then we were taking a lot of emails and meetings of like, hey, we want to sit down with you guys. Great. Saw Small Town Crime, really dug it. Like, we're excited about the script. We're like, okay, great. And I get this email that says like, hey, I read the script. I thought it was really funny. Let's sit down for a chin wag. And we're like, a chin wag? What the hell is that? Who is this? There's no sign off, and the email is like some, weird name. And I'm just like, okay, well, hey, great. I think it's another producer or financier. I'm like, hey, great. Glad you dug it. Like, yeah, we'd love to sit down with you. Like, who am I speaking with? And it's like, oh, hey, sorry, I forget to sign off sometimes. This is Mel. And I'm just like, holy shit. And I think Ash and I hugged at that moment. We were just like, "Oh my god!"
That's amazing.
I mean, it would help if he would change his username to like Mel Dude 25. That would be helpful.
Right?
No sign off. But they said his reps talked to our reps. They're like, okay, you guys got like 45 minutes with him at a cafe. We're like, okay, great. So we go talk to him at this cafe, and 3.5 hours later, we emerge still talking to each other on the way to the car. Like, we had such a great experience. And it was cool. He was very open about everything. I mean, we were grilling him about his movies. We talked about life and love, and then Batman. Awesome. And I remember at this one point, he was like, oh, we knew we had the right guy when he started talking about that scene where he's on the balcony and he's looking out at the elves. He's like, there's this moment where I'm looking at these elves and I just feel like I need to like, this is the worst thing I've ever had to tell these guys, and I'm just about ready to cry. And we're like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's like, and that's what's gonna make it so funny. And we're all, exactly. Yes, that's it, man. Like that grounded approach, that like realism to a point, like he understood it immediately. And like, we're like, okay, great. We got the right guy. He knows exactly what we're going for. And then it just continued. And of course, with him, with Walton, with Marianne, with Chance, they're such talented people that like you have a couple conversations with them, you give them the essence of what you're aiming for. Like with Walton, I think we told him unpredictable was like one of the big things we wanted with that character.
He's perfect for unpredictable.
He's so fucking good. So like with Mel, we told him a couple things, and then he went away. And like I remember him telling us later, like, I see this guy as an old cowboy. We're like, fuck yeah, that's great. That's fucking awesome. Because we were just talking about the car he would drive and like how we wanted him to dress. And then of course, since Mel's idea of that character worked right alongside of what our idea was the character, it was easy for us to sort of get ahead on all the, he's going to be wearing this Carhartt jacket and these plaid fucking shirts. And then, like he's a rancher type guy. And, of course he's like a blue collar warehouse owner and he's trying to just fucking make ends meet, It all just made a lot of sense. And we had a lot of fun putting those nuances of that character together with him. And man, he was so fucking great, because he would come up to us on set and he'd be like, guys, I got this idea. Now, hey, just take it or leave it. Like, I'm super excited with how, and that was the great thing about him. He would come up and like disarm you immediately. And I think he's so, he's got so much experience in front and behind the camera. I think he just knows like what we need to fucking, operate properly. Yeah. And he would just like, take it or leave it. You don't have to fucking take any of this shit. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. But what if I did this? Or what if I said this? Or da da da? And we're like, yeah, fuck yeah. Which is great, because we're immediately, it turns into a discussion rather than, somebody trying to enforce something upon the movie or enforce their will upon you. It just turns into a creative discussion, and, and it's just a back and forth until we rap about something that we're all fucking excited about. And then he goes out and does his thing and fucking kills it. And then he would just do, like those scenes with him and Marianne were so great, man. They were just so warm and funny with each other.
Those are some of the best scenes.
Camera, and they were on camera.
Wait, hold on. Many of those are just a little.
So my audio is being. So naturally, guys, technology sucks when you need it to suck the least. And I just got booted out of the call for like 15 minutes. But we're back, and we were just talking literally about the relationship between Kris Kringle and Mrs. Kringle, played by Mel Gibson, and Marianne, Jean-Baptiste. And I love her. When she showed up in the film, I got so excited, because anytime she pops up in anything, she's brilliant. Was she a thought beforehand? Was it like a casting opportunity that came? Were you always thinking of a biracial couple and kind of race bending the character? Or was that just like when Marianne was in front of you, she was clearly just the best option?
So Marianne, was presented to us, and we were thrilled, because she was absolutely someone we were really excited about. We had always intended to do Ruth as a person of color from the beginning. Awesome. So, but when Marianne became an option, Ian and I flipped out, and for multiple reasons, like honestly, like she has this ability to navigate both dramatic, she has some work to do at the end, and you have to believe that she can go there, right? She has to be tough, but she also needs to be nurturing and loving. And so for that character, we could have no one better than Marianne. We were so thrilled. Okay.
Sorry, I was going to say, one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is when Mel is
beaten up on that punching bag. Because one, I just love the visual of Santa like looking like a brolic bad at. Like you can tell he's got the gut, but he could throw down, and like he's knocking the sand out of the bag, and he's at one of these places where he's just at like a crossroads. And Marianne just sneaks into the back and drops off those manila folders that have the things that remind him why Santa Claus is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I think their relationship was loosely inspired by our own parents' relationship, in that they both ran a business together. Our dad was sort of the front person. He was a photographer for 20 years. And then our mom, knew how to keep the business running. She knew all the logistics, but she also knew how to get the most out of him. Mm. And so that's what Marianne knows how to do there, right? She knows how to aid Chris when he needs it the most.
Yeah, and I love all their scenes together because the conversations they have, that was the thing I loved. It felt so real. Like it felt like this was an actual married couple you were watching, like that care and love about each other on screen.
Yeah, I mean, Mel, like, it's funny because Mel and Marianne were talking about it on, I can't remember what interview they were doing it on, but it was some of the earlier promotional stuff that I sathem do together. And I remember Mel looking over to her and just saying, like, I mean, what was it for you? I mean, for me, it was just, all the years that I've been married. He's like, there's a certain feeling you have with your significant other. And he's like, and I just remember, trying to really bring that to this role and those moments with you. And he's on, I felt they were really easy because he's on, maybe you have that same understanding. I don't know how long you've been married. He's like, but I just know that I had a similar feeling from you. He's like, I just thought you understood them innately. And she agreed. And she's just like, yeah, we've both been married so long. I think we both know what that feels like with our significant others. So we were able to just kind of put that in context and go. And they were so awesome. Like they were just laughing and punching each other in the shoulder, like, off screen, like, and then like, the little moments where, they would finish the scene and they would still just kind of fuck around with each other for 2 or 3 lines. And then she'd chase them off with a rolling pin or something, Like there's probably half a dozen they did half a dozen takes, and each one of those half a dozen takes is special and funny and awesome for different reasons. And we just had to pick the best one that fit the moment,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the embarrassment of riches.
Yeah. Exactly. And you can feel it too. Like the chemistry between them is so apparent. Like everything about when they're on screen together felt so natural. But now if you swing it to the exact opposite end of those two characters, and unpredictable is what you wanted from Walton Goggins. And I think Walton Goggins is one of those guys who's perfect for unpredictable. That opening when we first see him and that guy is bringing the baseball bat into him, I'm just sitting there going, isn't this guy supposed to be an assassin? Like, what is happening? And just the way he grabs the light and he rolls the bat, like everything about him, that scene just established it where I was like, oh, I can't wait to watch him chew on scenery this whole freaking movie.
Well, and dude, and like a testament to Walton, like that scene was not scripted initially. So we wrote this later, but he did not know the environment. Like we just put that together. Ian and I saw that room during our location scouting, and they were like, oh, like you could use this as like a makeup room or something. And then throughout the shooting, we adjusted the story a little bit based on Walton's portrayal. And obviously we didn't shoot the movie in order. So we were actually shooting the latter half of the film first. And so we got to that, to where we were supposed to start shooting in the beginning. We're like, gosh, I think we need to pivot a little bit here. And so we conceived that scene where Walton would be in there, as sort of like a high-end pawnbroker for these authentic Santa toys. And I remember we present him with the room and he walks in and like we did like Ian and I did like a little sketch of the, because it was a simple room, but we're like, oh, we want like the arms. And then Chris, the production designer, came in there and put all that stuff in there. And Walton just went in there and had a ball, man. And within like 5 minutes, he's like taking the lamp and like, and like rolling the bat and like doing all that business and just working it out so fast.
Yeah. And then he went in the room. He felt it out. He's like, just give me, like 10 minutes in this room or 5 or 10 minutes in this to work this out. And he would go, okay, and everyone's just very quiet as he's like, fucking around and like fucking half-assing his lines, but doing all these physicalities to them, trying to figure out what he wants to do at that moment. And, and then he's like, okay, I think I got some stuff here. Okay, great. And then he would kind of step away and then the lights would be placed and blah, blah, blah. The seconds would come in and get all the lightings placed. And then, on the day, he obviously kept it fresh enough because every take he had new little fuck around things he would try to do. And it was so much fun, man. It was so fun, you know, and then we'd throw something at him and he'd fucking do it. And we would just laugh, man. It was a lot of fun.
But I think that scene is a consummate example of like the Walton effect, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The dialogue's there, but like we're definitely not writing in Skinny Man yanking down the lamp and like, you know, and like, or like Skinny Man rolls the bat. Like we're not writing that in the script, right? That's like what Walton's finding on the day.
Well, and that's like the other thing too, where it's like you can tell that the people that you're working with mesh with your guys' style and your material, because the humor that I've found in all of your movies, the reason I like it, and even when it is that dark humor, you know, in something like Fatman, or even the dark humor moments in Small Town Crime, it's all natural to the characters. Like, I think one of my favorite scenes that I've seen that have come from you guys is that like made me laugh is the first time Clifton Collins pulls up in that car with Robert Forster just sitting right there, and you're expecting like this pimp in this pimp car to be listening to some pimp music, and he's rocking out to Zach Jones's Just Out of Reach, and like Forster is just like, can you turn that off? And he's like, nah, man, this gets the blood going. And I'm like that element to the character feels so natural and like apparent to him. It doesn't feel like forced comedy, but it gets that tension break that you need when the suspense and the thrills are kind of really amping up. So what is it about your guys' taste in comedy and like how it works with the people that you're working with?
That's interesting because it's hard to say. Oh, I'm sure it's years of cultivating what we like about movies and what we think is funny, and you know, in life, there's plenty of things, you know, very macabre things that have happened in our life, as there are in most people's lives that happen, and it's your choice on how to react to them, and you know, we choose to sort of lean in to try to find the humor in those moments, you know, to try to deal with them. I'm sure that it has something psychologically to deal with that. So we find these dark moments, and then we would just want to fucking throw something in there like a monkey wrench or a fucking a record stop type moment. You're like, what the fuck? Like,
but we always think like, you're absolutely right. Like that scene where Clifton pulls in, it's like, oh, 9 out of 10 movies would be doing this.
Yep.
Right. And so we're like, oh, well, what's that 5, 10, 15% change that we can do to sort of keep it, you know, realistic and grounded, but subvert the audience's expectations. And Ian, I also say, like, we don't really write jokes.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about it. Like, it's just natural.
Yeah, like we were like, if there's humor, you know, look, we think things are going to, we do have an idea of what we think is going to be funny, you know, because like it made us laugh, and we don't think we're that special. Like if we're, you know, common person laughing at it, I think that, you know, a lot of other people will enjoy it.
Yeah.
But like for us, we're like, it should be in like naturally humor. The humor can't feel like it's a sledgehammer, right? Yeah. Like if you're going for jokes, it's like
or if you're winking, you can, like, there's things that, you know, it's not necessarily for us. It's not, you know, I've seen some people describe it as like tongue in cheek, but they're not winking at the camera, or they're not winking to the audience or something. And I think that's an interesting way to put it, but it almost feels more to me like it's like you know, social. It's like breaking like a social grace, or subverting someone's expectation, and they're laughing because they're uncomfortable, or they're laughing because it went in a weird way that subverted your expectation, which is somewhat amusing, you know, and you get a little chuckle there because it just didn't quite do what you thought because I mean, that's one of the fun things to think about too when you're writing a movie or you're making a movie. We're constantly thinking about, what do we think the audience thinks we're going to do right here, and how can we fuck with them, even in a subtle way? Even if like the car isn't the right color, like even if it's that stupid of a minute detail, we're trying to think of what that is, right? It's like, what would he have in his apartment? Oh, let's do this instead, which is right on cue with this character that you're not going to think of, and it's going to catch you. You're going to be like this in the room when you get there. Whoa, I didn't expect this, or whatever. You know, it's like, we're always trying to think of, and of course it's great to have great art people, and it's great to have great collaborators that are on that same page with you and trying to help you achieve that. You have a couple of conversations with somebody, and I think this happens in front of the camera and behind the camera. You try to get these collaborators, and this goes back to the question about, you know, hiring people and working with people. It's like you get these actors that understand the material, but we don't want an actor that just kind of reads what we have on the page and comes in and tries to do what we wrote. Like, that's great, but we like to work with actors try to bring something to the role in addition to what, literally lift it off the page and make it their own. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to go fucking crazy, because it's like when we worked with John Hawkes has a very different method. John Hawkes is very he's very on the page. Like, he'll read the script like 1,000 fucking times, and he'll understand the character and the script and the story to such an extent that you can't, like, that he doesn't even like to change a line of dialogue or add a line of dialogue at times. He wants to be so inside of that world, and that works really fucking well for him. Like, he's able to embody and live in that moment so well in all of his movies that you can't see. Is that me? Am I beeping?
It's not me.
It's not me. And now it's nobody.
Now it's nobody. Okay.
You got a small kitchen fire upstairs, Ian. Don't worry.
Place is caught on fire. Luckily, I'm safe in the cemented basement. If my family burns alive, we'll just
We'll hope for the best.
There's that dark humor.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I immediately took away watching your guys' stuff is, with that natural kind of humor, I immediately thought like Coen Brothers, and it was like just the way they make the characters lead into things that'll make you laugh or take the story different ways. Like, you really play into the character, specifically with Small Town Crime and Fatman. But the other two people that I think of watching your movies are Nick Frost and Simon Pegg, because those are two guys who apply what they do to every genre known to man, and they adapt inside those genres, but they still do their thing. And as I watched the 4 most recent movies you guys made, they're 4 very different movies. And yes, some of them have elements that are similar, but you're playing in, this kind of like Midwestern tone, in small business area in the first couple, and then you're doing these crime thrillers and this kind of Western thriller. And the immediate thing I thought of first was, I want to see these guys do a sci-fi thing. And I think you guys are working on a sci-fi show with Octavia Spencer.
We are. Yes, we are.
Yeah, man. I mean, honestly, like, you sort of echoed our own, deep-seated desires, and that we are definitely looking to bring, what we do to different genres, right? So, like, whether that be a more traditional Western, is that science fiction, is that horror? Like, the answer for us is yes. Like,
that comes from because it comes from just, I think, and most filmmakers are like this. I think most people are like this, but you don't get to see a lot play in this way, and it would just be fucking mind blowing if we got to play around with these types of things. Because it's like, when someone asks you what your favorite movies are, you're not usually like, it's fucking Dirty Harry, Die Hard, and fucking Lethal Weapon. Like, you go outside of those genres. Like, for us, it's like, we love Predator. We love Alien and Aliens for very different reasons. Both of those movies, same fucking franchise, but they're very different.
Movies,
they're great. One's a thriller horror. One's a fucking action horror.
Yeah.
And they're both fucking exceptional. Some of the best in that genre. And then you go to somewhere like Last Picture Show and HUD and 5 Easy Pieces. And like, we love those fucking movies. We love those movies. Those movies feel like part of our soul, because that's kind of the area we grew up in.
Yeah.
So that's where that kind of Lost on Purpose vibe comes in.
I love that movie.
It's like, but like that, those characters, that's who we grew. Those obviously those characters are us. Those main two brothers have a lot of us in them, and then the actors brought a lot of their own baggage to those roles and did a fucking killer job. But like, that's us and our family and our friends, and that Miss Liz character is our mom to a certain extent.
You can feel that in the movie. Like, you can feel that love that is just poured into that script.
Yeah, man, it means a lot to us. That movie is part of our soul. Absolutely. Yeah.
But I would say, like, we approach every movie with that.
Sure, we do.
Yeah, and that's the vibe I get when I watch them. Like, it seems like you guys come with the same tenacity and the same approach, but you adapt it to whatever your sandbox you're going to play in.
Yeah. Well, and look, and for a while there, we always thought like, oh, we get a little bit more resources, a little bit more money and this and that. Like, maybe this will get easier. Well, I don't think our mode of operation, it gets any easier, because we've had, more resources as we've gone along here. And we're like, oh, well, it's just every one of them is tremendously hard. It takes a tremendous amount of effort. It takes over a year of your life. Because Ian and I are in them nose to tail, right? Like, we eat, drink, and sleep them for an entire year, because that's literally, all we care about in that moment.
Yeah, and you're like you're saying, like it takes like a year for you guys. You guys started shooting Fatman in February. Was that when shooting started on that one? So was the internet lying to me?
No, yeah, it's lying to you a little bit. So we went into Canada in November.
Okay.
And then we prepped until January, right, Ian? And we started shooting early January, and we shot through the end of March.
We started shooting at the end of January. So we started shooting like January 28th or 27th or 29th or something like that. And then we shot till the middle of March.
There you go.
All right. So how did the pandemic affect you guys with Fatman, and how has it kind of affected you now as you're starting to work with, you know, a new project? What kind of challenges has that given you guys?
It's been kind of wild because we wrapped the day before they shut down every production that was happening in Canada. So they were telling us for a week while we were shooting our last week that they were probably going to have to shut us down. And they were like, "Oh no, you get another day. Oh no, you get another day." And then finally we finished, and we're like, "Whoo! Thank God we made it through that last week." And then the very next day they said, "We're shutting down everything. Sorry, whoever's still going." And we were like, "Oh fuck!" Wow. We like 8 hours or some shit. We made it. And then we took all of our stuff home, and we had
look, like just to tell you like how critical that was. If they had shut us down, we would have been missing days out of the shoot because we could not have come back. Our budget was stretched so thin at that point that there was going to be no getting back up. So whatever we didn't leave Canada with, we didn't have.
What was that potential stuff that we would have been missing out of the movie if you didn't that extra day?
The schedule was loaded in that everything with Chance and the house was shot last.
That's right.
Yeah. And he's so critical to that movie because he embodies everything that Santa has a problem with, but also is the kid that he's like, you know what, I'm going to give you that second chance because that's what this is really about. And he is such a little asshole kid. I love seeing how scared he is when that one-eyed Santa is staring him down. Which, by the way, I love the patch and like I love the badass look it gives him. But did we have to shoot Santa Claus in the head? Like the knee knife, which I completely forgot about. I was like, that's a brilliant stroke. Now it's time for Mrs. Claus to save him. And they were like, nope, we're going to shoot Santa, and then Mrs. Claus is going to save him. And you knew he wasn't dead because you set it up with the, on Christmas. The reason this is a gun-toting Santa is because he lives in a world where if strangers come into a house, he might get shot, and he is. And then I love that you intertwine that piece with one of those wonderful heartfelt moments between him and Marianne, and then you see them in bed together and you see the wound is healing. So you know that he can heal, but I don't know if I needed to see Santa get shot in the face.
Look, man, we had to go hard. I also think we wanted to leave a little bit of doubt as to, well, how much can he actually recover?
I did doubt it for a second. When she's holding him there, I'm like, shit, was that too much of a gunshot?
Yeah, like there's that, right? And for us, we want this, hopefully the film keeps you off kilter enough to where you don't know if we're that fucking bananas. Like, is this the movie where, spoiler alert all over the place, right?
Yeah, right. If you didn't think we were going to spoil, shame on you.
Is this the movie where fucking Chris is shot in the head and Skinny Man puts on the coat? We want you to guess. Like, we want you to be terrified that we might do that.
Or Mrs. Claus has to take over the business or whatever.
Yeah, you definitely made me feel like that. I was just like, oh, I don't know how I feel initially. And I rewatched the scene right before you guys came on, and I was like, not, you definitely need it there.
You know what it does for me? I just remember when we were talking about what that moment did when we were writing it, and what it kind of does is Chris is trying to get. I mean, look, I think Chris's main goal is to save everybody, and he's an incredibly compassionate person. Santa Claus is. So when he gets that guy down, when he gets that guy down and he has him on the ground and he disarms him and then he punches him in the face and to his knowledge, he's defenseless. His first reaction is, okay, it's over. Like, let's stop.
I love that he yells stop at him.
Yeah, he's like, it's over. Like, you fucking lost, man. It's fucking stop. Like, let's stop. I don't want to have to kill you. And then, of course, Skinny Man's got a trick up his sleeve. Yeah. But we love the idea that he loses that fight because of his compassion for humanity. And that is what Santa is. Like, if Santa was going to get in a fight, and he'd probably beat your ass, but he'd also be on top of you and probably be like, hey, look, Ian, calm down. Like, I know we got heated there, but he probably would have a moment of compassion. He's a benevolent human being. So, and then he loses because of his compassion, and his wife has to bail him out,
Yeah. And we just thought it would be tough with him running around with an eye patch, to be honest.
Yeah, when I saw the visual, I was like, you know what? It's worth it for that. Like it was I had the same feeling when I saw Chris Hemsworth with the patch for Thor the first time. I was like, oh, that's so badass. And like, I see Santa with that. I'm like, Santa with an eye patch is bad. Like if there's a Fat Man too, I want to see Santa Claus with a eye patch.
There's something that we really dug about that. We're like, oh, that'd be looking tight, like with a patch. And then this is a little interesting anecdote. So when Chance Hurstfield came, the very first thing he had to shoot was that scene with Mel.
Oh my God, that's where you start?
That's where he started.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, he
talk about landed hot, right?
Yeah,
like,
right.
But the good thing it did do is, like, I mean, it's a big scene for both of them. But I mean, Mel, it's one of Mel's biggest scenes. And what it did was just kind of set the tone and the pace and the feeling for Chance, I think. Because when he came back at the end, and he was just fucking dialed. And there were a lot of times where we had an hour to shoot, like that scene where he's painting. I think we had a half an hour to shoot him responding to Skinny Man as he's telling him he wants his head. He had like a half hour after we got all the lights shot, set up and properly lit to shoot that scene. And luckily that kid's so talented, man. He was just so on it. We hammered it out and then got a few extra takes because he really had the character dialed in by that point.
I feel like you're reading my notes over here, because that was one of those things I was going to ask is what kind of I feel like there's two types of kid actors, like a kid actor who's an actual kid that you kind of got to coach through, and then a kid who's an actual actor. And I got like actor vibe from him, and like hearing you say that, I'm like, yeah, he seemed like someone who comes and he like can bring it.
Well, and with the nature of our budget and the schedule, we knew we had to have somebody that we didn't need to coax into a performance, right? We couldn't just there's movies where you get a young actor or whoever, and you're like, okay, well, we can like do a bunch of improv and get them there, and like we can get all the material we need. But we knew with this one, and with the words, like it was really hard to get the dialogue out of a young actor's mouth that wasn't a banger, like it was like you really had to know how to act because the dialogue was kind of tricky for a kid.
And the performance too, like there is this sinister maniacalness to everything he is saying and doing the whole movie, which is why I love when Santa Claus is like, look, I'm gonna give you a second chance, but like if your grandma dies early, if that little girl gets a cold, I'm gonna come pull you out of your bed. Like, remember that. And that was something about Santa when you get to the end of the movie. I'm like, that's a take on Santa I really like. Like, this is a guy who wants to bring cheer and goodness to the world. But if you're not going to bring it, he's also the guy that's going to stop it. And that's a take I've never seen before. And I love that.
We know when we were writing the ending, we were like, okay, like, I mean, it's funny to see people like get so into it at the end. They're like, I wish that he would have fucking just, that little kid needed to get it. We're just like, okay, well, he's got to be able to have, like, Santa has to have a level of, you can redeem yourself, or you can build back up. You get a second chance. You know what I mean? He shouldn't be this kind of like, death and fire and thunder every time you make a mistake. I think he sees that the kid's making a mistake. The kid's still like 12. And I think he says, hey, look, like, this is kind of your last chance. I know you've done a lot of bad shit, but you're ready to, and he's literally crossing the line as Chris comes in the door. He's about ready to kill his grandmother. Then there would be no coming back. But
I love that too. When he drinks, he's like, fentanyl, that would have done the job.
And there you go. Like another Mel. That was Mel on the day.
Was that Mel?
The fentanyl.
Genius. Yeah. All right. I know you guys only got a couple minutes. So one last question. Clearly just talking to you guys, you clearly are movie people. What is the next, obviously we don't know when any movie is going to come out anymore, but what is the next thing you guys are looking forward to seeing just from a fan perspective?
It's probably some stuff that's already come out. So my radar is poor right now on like what's coming out. I'm excited about the Pattinson Batman. Totally excited about that. I still need to see.
I'm going to watch 84 for sure.
Yes. Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah.
Did you see that? There's a lot of great stuff coming out. There's a lot of the new Bond. I'm curious to see. There's a lot of stuff that got pushed, which sucked. But there's some crazy little indies. I'm not indies, but there's some crazy stuff that cool stuff that I'm excited to look at. I just watched a movie called Parallel by a Mexican filmmaker. Isaac, God, he's gonna kill me. I can't remember his last name, but I was just chatting with him on Twitter, and he was like, "Hey, yeah, man, I relived your film. You know, I saw he was a filmmaker." I'm like, "Dude, what have you made?" And then we started talking about his stuff, and his movie just came out, Parallel, which I totally dug. And then there's what is it? Antebellum.
Oh yeah.
That one.
I mean, recently I watched I just have to remember. So I have to jot down all the movies I watched. I can't remember what they all are.
Yeah, I forget constantly.
But I watched the Phenomenon doc about aliens.
Oh,
which was pretty cool.
Was it awesome?
It was pretty great in that we were on a road trip in New Mexico at the White Sand Dunes.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we're sitting in the back watching it on Netflix, right on my iPad. And it's literally talking about people being abducted in the exact area that we're parked in right then and there. That was some pretty surreal, kind of scary thing to be in. And then I watched Mank recently, which I like.
I'm looking forward to putting Mank on. Was it real good? Did it make you want to go watch? Oh God.
Like Citizen Kane.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Look, I mean, Citizen Kane and Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf are like my two favorite black and white movies.
Okay.
Well, what was that other Liev Schreiber movie that was also fucking fantastic? It was like an HBO original.
Oh, yeah. RKO 187 or something.
187 or something like that, or
180. I can't remember the number, but RKO something.
That one's fucking amazing as well. And it's like it's an HBO movie, but it's like Liev Schreiber plays Citizen Kane, and it's like during that whole time he's making the movie. And I think James Cromwell plays.
Trevor plays Orson. Yeah.
Yeah, and right. I'm sorry, not Citizen Kane. Jesus. Yeah, plays Orson Welles. Jesus.
It's okay.
It's all become meta now. And it's all.
Well, he is the lead in that. So it's technically.
Yeah, you're right. It is
very meta. Meta on top of meta. So anyway, yes, Liev Schreiber plays Orson Welles, and James Cromwell, I think, plays Hearst. And it's fucking awesome. Like, it's fucking great.
That's a really good one. You're right.
Isn't Malkovich playing Mankiewicz?
Plays
fuck good.
Unbelievable.
If you haven't seen that, you need to watch that. It's so good.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get on. I love getting recommendations from filmmakers. This is like super exciting. So I can't wait to go check any of those out. And I guess right before you guys go, is there anything you guys can say about the project that you're doing with Octavia?
I mean, we just because like I don't know when it's going to come out or when we're going to make it, because things have their own way of like we've written plenty of things that that we're excited about making, and it's just either the temperature isn't right, or we're at the wrong company, or don't have the right actor yet, or blah 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 blah. Who freaking knows? But it's a really cool sci-fi. That it was based on a book that she was very passionate about as a child, and she went and got the rights to it, and thankfully she came to us and said, "Hey, I think you guys would be great for this."
That's awesome.
I can't tell you like what the plot is.
I figured you couldn't, but anything I could get.
It's got a really deep, wonderful ensemble cast.
Yeah,
I love those. You guys get some really fantastic casts.
Let's hope that continues, man.
Yeah, man.
But like for us, like our mantra is like no character left behind. So that's like
like having Octavia in your back pocket, having worked with her multiple times, like that's got to be just an opportunity to go so many other places. So I hope you guys keep getting these awesome casts.
She was so fucking awesome on like Lost on Purpose, where she came in to play that nurse for 5 seconds and just do that funny walk and talk. Like she just, it's really fun to get like where Dale Dickey comes in and
she's fantastic too.
All Time Crime and does that bartender for us. Like it's so awesome to get like such heavyweights to come in and just close down some of those scenes that because it's like you want every moment to really shine, especially some of those moments like that. You can really get like a killer moment out of if you just have the right person in there.
And you're just loaded with character actors. Like all those actors love to play characters, and they really make them shine in the movies. Well, I gotta tell you, I know you guys gotta run. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely awesome. I hope we get a chance to talk again. You've got a fan for life right here. That's for sure. You guys make really, really, really good movies and awesome to talk about. I hope we can talk again because I would just like to talk movies with you guys because I feel like we can go for hours. Before you go, last words for you guys. I'll let you guys wrap up.
I was just gonna say thank you for having us on, but yeah, man, let's get something done, Ash, so we can come on and talk to Corey again.
Yeah. Well, I know we've just got a series that we produced coming out.
Yeah. I saw that James Lafferty is in that, correct?
Yes. So one of our longtime collaborators, James Lafferty.
By the way, I'm a Lafferty fan. I watched One Tree Hill growing up because I was a basketball kid. So when I saw him in all your movies, I'm like, I love that they're giving Lafferty. And like right after One Tree Hill, the next thing he did, like years later, was Lost on Purpose. And I was like, these guys like rejuvenated his career, which was kind of cool for someone who watched him back in the day.
We're so excited for this show for him. He and Stephen Coletti just fucking closed it down. So maybe we'll come back on and chat about that. I
would love it.
Experience. I mean, when that comes out on January 13th, yeah, man, you should binge it and then we'll just come on and start talking about it. That'd be fun.
Would love it. Done deal. I will binge it and I will definitely reach out to you guys because I love talking and I would love to talk more, but I know you guys got to go. So thank you so much, Ian and Nesh. Really appreciated this. For the Nelms brothers, I, of course, have been the C-Man here on the C-Man Cinema Sit Down. Thank you for my first real-life interview. Look forward to talking to you guys later. And until next time, guys, make sure if you haven't, you want to come see more cool things like this, jump over, hit the subscribe button, hit that like. And until next time, for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down, that's Ian Nelms. That's Eshom Nelms. I'm Corey, better known as the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace.
Well, as I live and breathe, you still here? Check out a video like this one or this one and hit the subscribe button so you can get alerts and check out everything the C-Man's got at the Cinema Sit Down.